Welcome to Take Steps podcast with Joshua Mays and Catalina Fontoura Alzaga. I always like saying your name all the way through to myself. It makes me sound worldly.
Oh, I
but,
love
but
that.
but that's my friend Kato. And we're doing a podcast together, And
Hmm.
yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing really good at the moment. I'm feeling deep, deep gratitude on my way over. Right before
Yeah,
you started the podcast.
he was mentioning the
Yeah.
gratitude, and I was like, "Yo, let's record this." So yeah, what were you about to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Just sometimes I experience deep, deep gratitude without effort. It's just like fully present for me. And it's amazing to me how sometimes it's just present, and most of the time it feels inaccessible in a way that
Mhm.
feels like I'll say this. Sometimes it feels inaccessible, and then sometimes it feels like it's so much effort
Mhm.
to have gratitude. Um, and so when I do feel effortless gratitude, it's just like, what is this little what is this little gem, you know? It's like seeing a rare bird or something.
That's fascinating. You know, it's interesting because to myself, I want to say that gratitude is my default setting. You know,
I know. I know. I
and
love you for it.
and anything else is a distraction. You know, and that's my goal is to be undistracted from how awesome it is to be alive and to access this moment. And yeah, like I get out of bed and I and maybe like maybe that's just the way I've refined my solitude is to make getting out of bed every time like I get to get out of bed, I get to do this again,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I get to
Totally.
try this. And yeah, like I can, but I could certainly empathize. I guess yeah, like I grew up around people who who struggled with gratitude and yeah, like I'm really thinking about how much I want to talk about these people who may or may not be a parent, but but uh but yeah, like really deciding again from my upbringing what I'm doing and what I am not doing, and there's
Yeah.
certainly people in my life where I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't
Yeah.
do that. Like that looks
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely miserable. So anyway, and I don't see you as an
It's
absolutely
funny because I
miserable
have the
person, but
no, and I don't identify as an absolutely miserable person, but I do think that the inverse is true for me with me and my mom, for example. Like my mom's
mhm,
default was just this like constant deep gratitude
yes,
for existence, for her own
yeah,
existence. And that was the result of a lifelong heart condition that she legit did not think she would live past 50. Um
mm,
most like all her life she was like, oh, I'm not going to live over 50. She did pass away young at 72, but that's 22 years over, past when she thought she would
sure,
live. But because of this heart condition, she just always felt like death was could be around the corner at any moment, so she just had this like deep appreciation for life, and she expressed that to everybody around her. And on my father's side of the family, there's a history of depression, and I think I inherited that.
mm.
And so for me, it's something I have to work very hard uh, towards. Uh, yeah,
Yeah. When you bring that up, you now make me think of my relationship with death, and
yeah, yeah,
seeing seeing enough young enough, to where seeing enough people die around me young enough to where, and it's not really anybody in my family, it's mostly, yeah, I saw it enough, like in growing up that it did feel like, oh, like at some point very soon, I'm on the list, and whether it's dying from something, well, it doesn't matter what it comes from. There actually was a part of me, like in my 20s. I feel like I saw a couple people get cancer and die very young,
Mm,
you know, and it
mm,
made me think, oh, I have
yeah.
cancer right now. I have cancer right now, and I'm out of here soon, And there
Mm,
is something, and I would say 20-something-year-old me was more paranoid about it. It didn't translate immediately into gratitude, you know.
mm,
Um,
mm.
but um, yeah, yeah, it's fascinating, that I'm really pondering the roots of my psychology, and both the positive and negative aspects of it, Um, and yeah, like the roots of my gratitude of being alive, of looking, and again, I keep referring to feeling the sun on my face,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
because I just know a lot of people who again are activated in that misery, and they are distracted from just that basic sensation of being able to
Yeah.
feel your skin cells and the nerves attached to them, responding
Yeah.
to the fact that you are existing in reality and you're walking through it. And again, you don't get long to do this, you know. I guess, and
Yeah.
that's it
That's real.
too, like there's just so many examples whenever somebody in my family or somebody in pop culture, or whenever somebody passes away, it's another reminder, you know,
Reminder.
like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're still here,
Yeah. For
you know.
sure.
I actually I actually process the idea, like the analogy of life, as you're like sitting in a theater watching a movie, a really
Mm,
good movie that keeps getting more and more intense and more rewarding, and you're really
mm,
like just getting, you're getting more and more from the experience of sitting and watching this movie. And
mm,
while you're watching the movie, you're watching people in the theater disappear around you, you know
mm.
and you wonder, yeah, like that analogy stuck with me, and it was sort of powerful. And I feel like that popped into my head probably a little over a month ago, where I was just like thinking about the idea, like I said, of life as sitting in a theater, and receiving experience and receiving the storyline, and the end of the movie is just going to be you disappearing into nothingness,
Ah, yes. I remember you telling me about this.
Did I say that too? Okay.
You did. Yeah. And that being as people are leaving, it's people actually transitioning or passing away, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy to think that people are here and then they're just not, like,
Yeah, it's wild. Especially crazy to think that everybody that is alive on Earth right now
yes,
will one day be dead.
sure,
And a whole different set of humans will be on this Earth.
sure, sure, sure. Yeah. I was talking to my friend, and she was talking about, taking a walk in a cemetery, you know, and seeing tombstones, you know, and you realize that a large section of these tombstones, most of these tombstones are not being visited at all. Like nobody goes
Mm,
to see their great grandfather's grave. You know,
That's interesting. Yeah.
nobody's going to see their great grand aunt. You know, nobody. Yeah, like after a certain point in time, like it's
Yeah.
just a plot and a stone sitting there. You know, and
Yeah.
a random stranger comes and reads the inscription on it. You know, and it literally is like a generation or a couple generations because
Yeah, totally. That makes me think of this.
I haven't
I don't
visited my
remember where this
grandparents'
is
graves at
from.
all. But go ahead.
No?
No, but go ahead. Sorry.
It makes me think of this thing that I heard, and I don't remember where exactly, but this idea that there are three deaths. You die three deaths. So there's the death, the actual death, that where you die. And then I can't remember what the second death is, but or the second or third. I can't remember one of the deaths, but the other death is when people stop remembering you. So
Yes.
you sort of stay alive, right, beyond your actual physical existence, but you stay alive in people's memories. But then once you stop being alive in people's memories, that's another death. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's again, it's it's fascinating. We really started this first episode, you know, in a
Really getting
very
into it
interesting
real
place,
quick.
you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
so I
No, but I
yeah, I
think it's
like
a really good point of reference, actually. You
I
can't talk
do, I
about
do.
life and gratitude without talking about death and finitude.
Well, yeah, like I like the idea of the podcast being rooted in philosophical perspective that is the core of being a creative professional. I like the idea
Yeah,
of
yeah.
um, people coming to us and getting value and feeling community in
Hmm.
um, the experiments, you know, that come with deciding that I'm I'm going to be creative and I'm going to deliver that creativity to the world, and I want to um, develop an enterprise based upon that. And you know, the idea of again these two artists, you know, from wherever they're from. Um, yeah, like I think that however we can broadcast that, you know, while at the same time broadcasting our humanity, you know, because I definitely think that that's an important product, you know, to deliver to people
Yeah,
is
yeah,
human connection,
for sure.
you know. And
100%. Should we talk about where we're from and who we are?
I think so. I think with this first episode, you know, like getting people caught up and yes, yeah. So you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Um, so my name is Carolina Fontoura Alzaga. I am a multidisciplinary artist. For 17 years now, I've been developing a body of work called the Connect series, that is a lighting sculpture series. I have 33 models to date that range in scale from 1 to 5 feet diameter, 1 to 10 feet height. I just released a second series of lighting sculptures called the Lucien series. And yeah, the first series is sort of rooted in environmentalism and sort of this like socio-political lens of looking at bicycle chains in the context of a chandelier as yeah, this sort of notion of a reclamation of power. I'm very interested in power, like as a subject, where it resides, how um, how we can reclaim our power, how our power is sort of like usurped. Um, yeah, and the second series is about that too. I'd say, yeah, but I also love all these other things. I love jewelry. I love painting. I love collage. I adore collage. Yeah, there's all these other mediums that I want to explore. And for the last, so 2010 to 24, for the last 14 years, I founded Facaro in 2010, which is my art studio. And I've been a small art business owner. And I've been growing up alongside the development of my art business. I didn't study business. I studied composition and color theory. So yeah, I mean, one of the things that you and I have, one of the things I've loved so much about our friendship, I mean, we met before I really was, I mean, I was already painting. Was I already painting when we met?
I feel like very early on we hung out,
Yeah.
and in hanging out we were painting. Like I came over to your
Yeah.
place and we were smearing paint on stuff, or we were drawing, or you were painting and I was drawing. Either way, it was definitely like, I think in the episode of Devanir, the last episode of Devanir that I did talked about with you, I referred to the fact that I met you in, you were wearing clothes that you made, and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
So I was.
I actually remember that skirt too, and I think
Really?
yeah, I remember that you were wearing a skirt, you were wearing a top, and you said you made it all, and like I said, immediately the conversation wasn't like, let's make shit together, and yeah, like again, what we referred to in the past conversation we had, recorded conversation we had, was the first uh, bag you made combined with me spray painting a stencil on top of it. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to cut off your intro. So
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you, thank you. So we met, I mean, when I was 20, I was already, creating things. My father gave me my first 35 millimeter camera when I was 15. I loved photography. I love photography. Um, my mother was an artist. She went to art school. My father was a photographer, videographer. My family, my extended family on my mom's side, are so many of them are artists or work in the creative sector in one way or another. So I come from a family that really values art, which I'm so grateful for. And yeah, and I got my BFA in 2007, and my BFA thesis was the Connect series. I was only expecting to make one. It turned into this 17-year, you know, art business. I don't know. I think that covers pretty much all of it. If not, that's pretty close.
okay, my name is Joshua Mace. I have been drawing and painting for about as long as I can remember. Um, Born in Denver, Colorado. Uh, um, yeah, born in Denver, moved to Philadelphia at age, what age? In 2002, lived in Philly for 8 years, moved to the Bay Area, have been in Oakland for uh, 15 years, 12 years, something around there.
You skipped Mexico City.
Well, I lived in Mexico City for 5 months.
Yeah, it still counts.
Yeah, well, to you, I'm just joking. Yes, no. So yeah, between leaving Philadelphia, like I left Philadelphia, I had a nomadic period, and part of that nomadic period was being in Mexico City. Was jumping in and out of uh, the Bay Area, LA, Denver, Philadelphia, jumped over to London, South Africa, met up with my man Matty in Puerto Rico for a little bit. Was really, I think that was the main thing when I left Philadelphia. Was, I think I was in like my mid 20s, and I was like sitting working retail, and I think, yeah, that was just a moment of realizing that I really wanted to travel the world, Like I want to
Mm.
actually, yeah, I think I had a friend who I met, and she was like, she had a project that she was in Africa working on.
Mm.
She was working in medicine, and that took her all over the place over there. And I was just like, huh, like, and it just made me think, like, use my able body, of this moment. I think a lot of people when they look at traveling, and maybe pre social media, this is especially more real. Um, because nowadays you can on Instagram you can see lots of younger people traveling around, and going from place to place. You can follow travel blogs. But before the internet and before social media, the idea of being a world traveler was something you did after you retired. Generally, like
Mm.
you you work a job and you suffer doing that for a while, and maybe when you get your retirement, you're able to go to the Eiffel Tower and take a picture in front of it, and yeah, yeah, like I remember again having a moment, um, like I said, just realizing that's not me. I'm not going to wait. Like I would rather, um, yeah, I don't know if I had also just conversations with people who were nomads and who went to who were traveling, going from hostel to hostel, and who
Mhm.
were
Mhm.
just really talking about a strategy of living that just made me like, huh, I should be doing that. I need to, like, I'm not going to. There's something in sort of recognizing when you are a money conduit between the place you work and all the expenses that you're going to pay. Like
Mm.
you just
Mm.
feel like a financial conduit. Transferring from like I worked at the Gap, in the art museum store. Like I'm just a conduit of of fiat flow, from this sector to
That's
this
cool.
sector.
I didn't
And I was
remember
like,
you
I don't.
working at the Denver Art Museum.
Not the Denver Art Museum, the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
Ah, yes. Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I worked at the airport,
Seems like a cool job.
and within the
Yeah.
airport, I worked in the airport and I actually worked at the art museum as well. But
Mm.
I worked in a store. I worked in it was a retail job. But yeah, like realizing that I would rather, when it comes to again money flowing in to my entity, I would rather do what I want with that energy. It's sort of like recognizing that you're a recognizing that you're a wind turbine, and you are receiving this flow, and instead of it
Mm.
just simply, you can decide on those expenses that you're going to pay, and decide, I could just be focused on keeping the energy on, the lights on in this one place, or I could
I could go keep
I
the lights on somewhere else.
I could I could I could make an airplane fly into the air with my expenses and get on that airplane. you know, I could I could pay for again a hostel in South Africa. I could decide that my that financial energy is going to flow into feeding me while I'm in London.
Mm.
And I think that's so. Anyway, yeah, definitely a scenic route of introducing myself. But yeah, like
Hey, I like scenic routes. We're known for
yeah,
scenic routes, you know.
I think that's the point of starting a podcast. is is we take a lot of verbal scenic routes, and I think like that's the thing
And
is
have
is
for a couple decades together.
yeah, I think that's the thing is we're going to have conversations, and we're going to talk about experiences. And in podcasts that I've followed, like, and I think we've mentioned this before, or you sort of mentioned your insecurity about, like, you know people don't want to hear the same story over and over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, they do, because in our reality there's going to be nuances to the way we approach that story of us hanging out in Mexico City, or that other story of us hanging out in Denver, or when we have guests on and they talk about their experiences and we bring up
Mm.
that experience again in as it resonates with that. And again, like that's sort of, you know that's as friends do. Like I know that we've told each other stories over and over and over again. And I like the idea of, again, having a community of people listening to our stories. And really, like I have a lot of, yeah, I don't know if the phrase is accurate. I'll just say it. I have a lot of social ambition with this project. Like, I like the idea of us traveling and doing Take Steps Live,
Mm.
and having a bunch of
Mm.
people, in Portland be like, I love you guys. I went to that place. I remember y'all talking about, when y'all are pissing the streets together. I piss the streets too. And it's like, yeah, high five. So, yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Um, I think I'm done introducing myself. I draw and paint. I've been creating exhibits over the years, creating murals over the years, creating work for clients, and really developing my style. Developing my technique, developing, and came to the point of say about in 2020. Let me rewind before that. There was a point where I needed to get away from client-based work to really dive into the imagery that I'm
Mm.
creating, because there was a calling, and the pandemic produced that opportunity. In the
Mm.
pandemic, I created the city of Ogaruth. Ogar is my father's mother's name. Ruth is my mother's mother's name. And with that,
Mm.
I looked into my imagery to start connecting, uh, these characters into this landscape, with the goal of,
Mm.
uh, creating a bridge between my studio and video gaming and animation. So, but and also multimedia. I want to have collaborations in fashion and music, and, many sensory diving possibilities when it comes to, bring people in and finding community and connection, and just having fun, and stoking the ambitions of everybody else out there who's drawing weird characters and
Mm.
strange landscapes, and
Mm.
feeling, um, a question of, what can I do with this? Like, I like the
Mm.
idea of, like, you can, especially in this day and age, of technological development, you can make an entire ecosystem of possibilities, and invite people into that, and have it, um, grow itself. Like, I'm so excited
Mm.
to plug to plug AI into certain aspects of this storyline. I want to have a city full of AI personalities creating art alongside me, that I do collaborations with, with that weird character in Chambers District, that I
Mm.
do a, you know. So anyway, City of Ogaruth, Joshua May Studios. Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love
So,
that. Hearing you speak, there's a couple things I want to say in addition to what I already said. I was born in Mexico City, and I am Mexican Brazilian. Mom is Mexican from Mexico City. Dad is Brazilian from Rio. I grew up We moved to Denver when I was 3. I grew up in Denver, but would spend Christmases and summers between Mexico and Brazil. Both cultures inform who I am, though I am definitely also very much culturally American. So those are some details that are important to me that I left out. And I want to clarify that when I speak about power, I'm speaking about agency, and sort of where we can locate agency. I just want to make that clarification too. Yeah, just a couple of things that I thought of.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote something down last night,
Mm,
and that's the thing is I do a lot of writing, and a lot of it is just like thoughts on my creative flow and the value. I've been definitely being more thoughtful on the value that I'm attempting to broadcast. You know, um, and what did I write down? Um, I'd like my creative expressions to be platforms of possibility. Um,
mm,
so yeah, the that like even like doing what we're doing, speaking on the internet about what we who we are, what we bring, what our desires are, and again attempting to bring people in, you know, to our flow and to um I don't know, yeah. Like the phrase platforms of possibility like left me sitting there for
mm,
a little bit like, huh, interesting,
mhm,
and it has
mhm,
been I don't know, like I've been thinking even further, especially, that's as we both were just recently, very recently talking about, you know, struggling our personally struggling economies,
mm,
and how
mhm.
much it stokes creativity, like I'm thinking I'm I'm planning to direct a couple music videos like right now, just because I want to
Cool.
broadcast that as a platform of possibility, that my
Yeah.
studio has. I want some Joshua Mays directed music videos to be out there.
Yeah, you do.
I want some um yeah, and even like sound design that I've been doing and um yeah, and it's funny because, and I was having a conversation with my younger sister about this, but like my work sessions are so flooded with creative flow and I create a lot and I sort of wake up the next day feeling overwhelmed
Mm,
and insecure, with
mm,
with like I feel like I feel like I'm in a bubble of creative possibilities. Like I have an iPad full of drawings and digital drawings and paintings and concepts and I have savants of the sport action figures that I've been sketching out. I have so many different ideas that are supposed to become prints. I have so many, like I have a laptop full of just random weird films, that I've edited and I meant it to be like a series that I'm going to blast on Instagram. And yeah, there absolutely is a voice inside me that says, nobody's going to,
sorry, let me silence my phone.
yeah. But yeah, there's a voice within me that says, nobody's going to like that shit. Nobody's going to care about
Mm,
that shit. Nobody,
oh Lord.
and there, and that is my low self-esteem, that I'm managing against. I'm
Yeah.
lucky to be a person with both high self-esteem and low self-esteem, and not really much in the middle. you
I
know
think there can be a benefit to both for sure.
Sure,
Like
you
having
know,
both. Yeah, 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 yeah.
sure. But yeah, like there is a part of me, yeah, there's a part of me that looks at that that creative people that I admire, and I can tell that they don't have that low self-esteem voice that has a foot on the brake while they're on the gas at the same time, you know. And it's just like you have to accelerate, you know. You have to let the acceleration happen, and you have to allow yourself to put an idea out there that fails, you know. And that's
Yeah,
another
yeah,
thing
yeah, yeah.
is is I guess, yeah, like I need to respond more effectively to the failures that I do put out there, you know, and allow that to be the necessary ingredient for ultimate success, for ultimate, well, taking steps, for proceeding, you know. Like it has to,
Mm,
I have
mm,
to, I guess that's the thing. And I like the idea of me explaining this, for the sake of somebody listening knows that
mm,
you have to give yourself permission to fail. You have to you
mm.
have to tell that voice inside to shut the fuck up. You know? And that that voice is also, you know, like a traumatized inner child that is communicating its lesson that it learned in life about about why nothing's ever going to work out for you, you know? And you have to very
Yeah,
compassionately tell that inner child, it's okay,
that
just
part.
shut the fuck up.
That part.
And
Yeah.
here we go, you know? It's
Yeah, I'm
okay.
very much of the sentiment that approaching it with compassion is vitally necessary.
Sure. You know, be
Yeah.
compassionate, you know, and recognize again, like that is I've definitely had like studio sessions that had to be shut down for a little bit because I had to listen to the insecurities of
Mm,
12-year-old me that suddenly is chiming into my mental space, you know, 15-year-old me chiming into 23-year-old me chiming into 5-year-old me, you know. And I think that's sort of the benefit of therapy,
mm,
of understanding your psychology, so that you, when you have a moment of anxiety, of sadness, of anger, you have the ability to sit down and directly connect it, you know, to the emotional memory that is crystallized within you. I think I mentioned to you in conversation before, you know, and I feel like I've been talking for a little while, so I'll transfer the mic over in a second. But I feel like I've spoke to you about, how our our memories, our thoughts are inaccurately stored within us, you know,
mm,
but
mm,
but emotionally they're crystallized perfectly within us, you know, in the
mm,
same way like rings within a tree, you know.
mhm,
And
mhm,
you literally can slice a tree and look at the trunk and see its rainy seasons and its dry
mhm,
seasons and moments
mhm,
of deep trauma, you know, like you can look
mhm.
in the rings of a tree and see, oh, that was the year that fire happened, you know, and it
Yep,
survived that
yep,
fire, you know. And you can see
yeah,
the way the ring, again, the way the growth was stunted, that was a rough time. Like recognizing
yeah,
within ourselves that we are emotionally built in the same way, and having the ability
mm,
to sense that ring and that resonating moment that's producing the emotion in the moment is very useful, you know. I'm finding. So
yeah. Yeah, that makes me think of this idea that trauma isn't the actual event, it's how you're reacting to the event, and how you're experiencing that event in this moment. right? So it's
Mm.
not how you experienced it at 5 years old, but your body is physically reacting to an experience you had when you were 5 in this moment. And to be able to sort of navigate through that, it's important to recognize, to sort of like establish a dialogue with that past 5-year-old self from the vantage point of this moment. And I think also now as adults, like we've talked a lot about reparenting, right? And
Yes.
being sort of showing up for that 5-year-old self as you now as a, grown ass adult, and being a parent to that 5-year-old self, and expressing the kind of love and compassion and protection and acknowledgement. I think so often we tend to override our bodies and tend to override what our bodies are telling us all the time. Our bodies communicate through sensation and through emotion, and oftentimes, yeah, we're reacting to things that happened in the past in this moment, and to be able to actually like alchemize those experiences, um, having that dialogue is really vitally important. Um,
Yeah, no, the phrase reparenting has come up a lot, in conversations, with peeps in my life. And, yeah, you get to a certain stage in life where you recognize what you were given, and you have to audit what is serving you and what isn't serving you anymore, you know?
yeah,
And you
yeah,
have to, like, a lot of people, when they think of reparenting, they, um, they don't like the idea because they don't like the idea of betraying the lessons that they've been given from people that they love
mm.
very dearly, you know? And
I don't see it as a either or.
well, but you get what I mean by a person questioning lessons that their mom taught them and
Mm,
having a crisis of identity in that assessment, you know, in yeah, in questioning again your mom's lessons, and
mm.
questioning the way that she delivered those lessons, or whatever, questioning your father's lessons, and questioning the way, like a lot of us again are still inner children subservient to our deep love of our parents, you know, and in reparenting, yeah, like that's sort of what I've mentioned to you, but I've mentioned in many conversations that I define adulthood as recognizing that your inner children are yours now.
Mhm.
Those children are yours. Those things that happened in the past, you're not going to get somebody out there to apologize for what happened to that. You're nobody out there.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody nobody out there is um nobody, yeah, no, there's nobody but you taking care of those inner children and their experiences. And you have to claim that. You have to be accountable
Mm.
for that, so anything you were about to say.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I don't want to overlook that a tremendous amount of healing can occur from bringing some of these things back to the people who caused harm perhaps in the past, even if it's imagined harm, even if they didn't necessarily do something that was actually directly harmful to you, but you, for whatever reason, from your 8-year-old vantage point, like that's the meaning that you made. I do think that it's important to, in my experience, it's been absolutely like catalyzing. No, cathartic. It's been cathartic. Sorry, it's definitely been cathartic to bring some of these wounds back to. I'm thinking of step parent who was open to revisiting some past wounds, and I'm very grateful to him for listening to me bring these things to him, sitting there for like a couple of hours of
Sure.
me bringing these things up to him and him actually apologizing. And oof, that was so wonderfully healing and cathartic. And I don't want to overlook the importance of that too. Um,
I agree with that because, like I went to a middle school and a high school that was full of bullies, you know. And I want to say, like at least half the population, it felt like, was engaged in the act of bullying in some form or another, you know.
mm,
And
mm,
yes, there's something fascinating about seeing that person who was a bully in high school as a grown ass man, you know,
mm,
and seeing, seeing multiples of them, and having a
mm,
conversation, and it helps you develop a sense of empathy, you know, and realize, particularly with bullying, um, you recognize it's we were all kids with different strategies of getting through childhood, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
getting through the like childhood is so rough in so many ways. And yeah, if you're fortunate enough to have less roughness, to have less of an obstacle course that others have, um, then fascinating, like. But yes, I think like that is the main goal. Not only in adulthood are you again claiming your own inner children for yourself, but you're sort of recognizing that everybody else is a bunch of inner children themselves walking around.
Yeah, that's
Um,
brilliant.
there, there's a bunch of another statement that is solid in my gratitude. That helps solidify my gratitude, particularly when it comes to human beings, is that I sincerely believe that everybody is doing the very best that they can with whatever they happen to have, you know.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that. Mhm.
sometimes, you know, there are people that just don't have it, whether we're talking
Yep.
mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, you know. Everybody's doing the best they can with whatever they happen to have, you know. And
Yeah, even if their best
sometimes
isn't
their
good enough,
best is
or
not
you
enough for
think
you.
that, yeah, exactly,
but
exactly.
but
And
that
you think
doesn't.
that they could do better with what they have. They should
And
know.
from
But
exactly,
they're demonstrating to you that that is the capacity that they have.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And I think that there is something, yeah, there's something intensely cathartic about coming to that realization. And yes, it does take coming to terms with your own pain and coming to terms with your own screaming inner children to make sure that they are not dominating your internal conversation and in your internal lens on how you view the world. Like I definitely have plenty of people in my life who who again they haven't sliced open that tree to look at the rings and really connect
Yeah.
to that trauma.
Most
They
people, I'd say most people are not willing to look at those
I agree. I
aspects
agree.
of one's life.
There's there's so many there's so many crying children, driving cars and and road
And yelling
raging.
at the car next to them, yeah,
And
because they're actually just inner children. Like,
yeah, they're road raging and they're activated in so much pain, pain and I don't want to say misery because it just sounds so judgmental, but um, they're activated in their own psychology, and I think that is I think it's a good roundabout, within this conversation, to speak on the distractions from gratitude, you know,
Mm,
and
mm,
to really again bring it back to, yeah, like what is distracting you from feeling the sun on your face, from feeling the wind in your hair, from sitting in this moment right now and just enjoying that you get to sit in right now, like
yeah,
what is that, what is the distraction, I think that
yeah,
that is that yeah, I think it's a fascinating conversation we've had in this first episode for sure, when it comes to mind state, and yeah, like what are we going to present as the first steps of take steps, when it comes to living life and creating and connecting and expressing and then exchanging and then receiving and
mm,
negotiating,
mm.
and again enjoying this whole scenario that we get to be a part of, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I I feel super fortunate. I really had to, like I said in the beginning, kind of because I have these kinds of tendencies, and have since I was a kid with depression and anxiety. I really have had to fortify my toolkit, um, to be able to navigate, that in a way where I'm not creating so much suffering for myself, and
Mm.
in a way where I am actually waking up excited about, you know, what is ahead of me. And that has really had to be a very deliberate effort and a muscle that I've had to build. I feel super grateful that it's very much a part of my nature to be inquisitive, self-inquisitive since I was a kid, and that's definitely helped me understand, um, how how to best help myself, and what strategies to come up with to, really take step towards living a fulfilled life ultimately. And and for me, part of that has been, fortunately, somewhere along my 20s, somewhere around 15. Well, sorry, I'll just go back real quick. My dad died when I was 15 in a car accident, and that's probably one of my biggest wounds. Sudden death. Like at 15, I realized, oh, that can happen. Okay, and that memory was embedded in my body. I started having panic attacks shortly after. Somewhere in my 20s, I discovered meditation, and I went searching for tools to help myself with my panic attacks. And yeah, yeah, there are steps I've had towards, the steps I've had to take towards healing. Really, some of those wounds have definitely been like, um, establishing a relationship with myself, and self inquiry, and like really understanding, um, how I'm doing things, like how it is that my patterns are sort of like repeating themselves, and what I can do to disrupt those patterns, and really taking ownership, like being accountable to my joy, being responsible for all of the things that are within my power to, um, yeah, to ensure that I'm able to fully enjoy this life that I'm living, despite the difficulties, despite the like my personal difficulties, like you talked about earlier, as far as like financial obstacles and things like that, but then also like larger macro scale difficulties that are unfolding before us in the world, you know, and how, yeah, I've had to figure out like how to best navigate that um, for myself. And I feel like I've been doing it really my whole life. Um, yeah, and it's a muscle. It's a muscle, just like any other. Um, so those are just some thoughts that I'm having in response to what you said.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, a lot comes to mind when I listen to you. But yeah, I feel like, and I think I mentioned to you, or I've mentioned to in the past that to me, every bad feeling is connected to an inner child, and I've been actively visualizing a younger version of me sitting in the room, whenever the anxiety feels heavy, whenever the sadness feels heavy, whenever anger feels heavy. It feels like, again, it feels like a distraction to me allowing this moment to to be as magical as it is, And yeah, like I put everything down and allow. Yeah, yeah, that anxiety is an inner child trying to tell me a story, you know, and I have to put everything down and sit there and allow the feelings to tell their story, and sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes a whole work session is ruined, you know, because I have to go on ahead and be there. But it
Mm.
is rewarding, to allow. It's rewarding to allow whatever strategies that you have for understanding yourself, um, allowing yourself the patience to to hear yourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to
Mm-hmm.
allow those expressions to um, come to surface, you know, and
Yeah,
yeah, and
because if you
having
don't look at them,
what's that?
if you don't look at if you don't look at them, if you don't allow them to come to surface and actually like sort of have it outside of yourself and like inspect it from every angle, then they can become these patterns that really run your life that are
Sure.
behind behaviors and interactions and situations and conversations. um, yeah, if you don't examine those, they may continue perpetuating without you even really understanding where they're coming from.
Of course. Yeah, and like there's many examples of people who, again, you know, when they think of um, their anger, what it's attached to, and they think it's attached to, oh, when I was 21, this thing happened, But then you realize, well, that 21-year-old was actually distracted from the inner, 15-year-old, but then that 15-year-old was actually distracted, and you you think that yeah, you end up perpetuating those patterns, like you said, and you think you're mad at your girlfriend for what happened last week, you know, and you're having a conversation with her about how much you're pissed off at her last week, and then you slow down and you realize, oh wait, I actually, like I if I really trace it back, like all my relationships are affected by me neglecting, these conversations with myself, and your relationship with your job, that you think it's about that, or your relationship with this, or and you you indulge in those distractions. A lot of people are definitely on the run from that work, that comes with paying attention and taking care of inner children. A lot of people.
You,
But go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, one of the muscles that I've been building is, I think that there's this also like inability to sit with, it's like do you know about the window of tolerance? There's like
Uh,
a window of tolerance within which you can tolerate, discomfort, for example. But there's also a window of tolerance for uh, not just negative sort of feelings, but also positive feelings. And that to me was a complete revelation when I found that it's out about that at some point. That it can be very difficult for certain people to be able to tolerate actually being okay, or actually being joyful, or actually being and so that's a muscle. Happy, that's as much a muscle as anything else, like being able to like sit and absorb, really take in, like, oh, okay, let me fully embody what joy feels like, or let me fully embody what feeling the sun on my face feels like, or let me fully embody what the pleasure of this delicious taste in my mouth right now feels like.
sure.
Or even, like, how many times a day do we pee? And peeing is delicious. Like, sorry if that's TMI, but it's like
Tell
a
us more about
truly
peeing, Connor.
pleasure.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a truly, there are so many opportunities. You were talking about platform of opportunity. There are so many opportunities
Sure.
for pleasure.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the most simple of details, like feeling the sun on your face, like feeling this fan on my skin right now, like, yeah, all the delightful tastes that we taste every time that we eat, or the pleasure of drinking water. Like, it is truly a pleasure, let alone all the other, like, more explicit pleasures.
Sure.
But you
Sure.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, there is I think that there is a also there's this kind of inability to actually tolerate, that people aren't even aware of, you know,
Sure.
tolerating joy or happiness just as much as like an inability to tolerate discomfort, anger,
Another visual.
sadness, etc.
Another visualization that I brought up with you probably many times, but I'll bring it up now, and I'll probably bring it up many times through the hundreds of episodes of Take Steps that we're going to record. But I see all my feelings as valid. All my feelings are to be respected. But certain feelings are going to be treated as my home, and certain feelings I'm going to designate as welcome visitors. You know,
Yeah.
and yes, being inspired is my home. Feeling joy is my home. Feeling hopeful is my home. Feeling, you know, feeling safe is is my home. You know,
Mm,
and
mm,
and sure, anxiety, anger, sadness, uh, all those less pleasurable feelings, they are absolutely allowed to come knocking on my door, you know, but
mhm.
you have the same limits that a welcome visitor would have, like you can sit with me, we can we can take time for a little bit to develop an understanding, but I think it's very effective to again say that this isn't my home. I have to protect my home. I want to protect my joy. I want to protect my sense of safety. I want to protect the feelings. I have every right to protect feeling good, and feeling undistracted from the miracle of existing, So, yeah, we're getting to to a bit past an hour. So,
Yeah,
I think we're about to
close
wrap
to
up.
the end of our show. Yeah.
So, let's communicate where people can follow us. Where can they follow you, Kato?
So I am on Instagram as Fakaro Studio. Actually, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest. All my handles are Fakaro Studio, Facaro Studio. And my website is facaro.com, Facaro.com. Yeah. Yep. Those are pretty much the ways.
All right. Yeah. I am Joshua Mays Art on all my handles. Joshua Mays Art, all one word. And yeah, you can follow me. I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm on TikTok, Twitter. Where else am I? I'm on LinkedIn. And you generally can just type in Joshua Mays Art, and luckily there isn't another Joshua Mays artist who's, I jumped on that, luckily quick enough. So anyway, follow me there. Yeah, no, this has been awesome. This has been unexpectedly psychological and therapeutic. And
Yeah.
I like it. I feel good about. I feel good about starting this conversation and this connection with you, with our community, and this being sort of the groundwork for us enjoying our connections.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I mean, I always love speaking with you. And earlier when you were saying, I don't remember what it was, but anyways, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm really excited about more of these.
All right.
Yeah.
So we are actually about to record another episode after this, but we are ending this episode right now. Thank you for tuning in. You people are the shit, like us, share this, comment with your thoughts and feelings, ask questions, and yeah, I love the idea of, again, becoming more engaged with community responses, and making it a part of the conversation that we are blasting out there. So thank you for tuning in, and that's that. Peace out, y'all.